understanding that, yeah, we're not running defense for these separatist movements whatsoever, but we're understanding the material condition. Hold on, I'm gonna get to the Sikh genocide after that. Hold on, 1 second, chat. But basically,
Oh, okay. Here, I'll just add friend, and then you can call me directly. There it is. Okay. Boomer. Here you go.
Here you go.
Can you guys hear me?
Everyone can hear you, but I think there was a little bit of an echo at first. Hold up.
I'm lowering my volume right now.
No, it's all, you're good now. Hold on. Let me.
You want me to turn on my camera or not?
Yeah, turn on your camera. I'm gonna turn it on in here, so that, and then pop it out. There it is. All right, turn on your camera as well.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Nice beanie.
Thank you. Got the idea from a certain streamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The impact that I've had on online discourse is pretty devastating. All right,
is.
So
tell us a little bit about
tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you do, and then we'll get to talking about India.
Yeah, so no problem. So my name is ArunAnnow. For those of you who don't know, by the way, ArunAnnow, Anno is literally older brother in Tamil. So even my name, yeah, Anna is literally older brother in Tamil.
That's sick.
So it's the same exact concept as HasanAbi.
Okay, love that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so
fire.
It's literally like I've marketed myself as like the Indian version of you, literally.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully your Indian haters are not as vicious as my American hog haters.
They're worse. They're worse.
Okay.
They're absolutely fucking worse.
All right. So let's talk about it. So
Sure.
Give us a little bit of background on the Khalistan independence movement and what is going on, who Hardeep Singh Nijjar was. Am I saying that right?
I don't speak Punjabi, so I can't really 100% estimate like what that guy's name is. But so the Khalistan movement in India was a separatist movement, largely in Indian-controlled Punjab, and the idea behind the Khalistan movement was that there were a bunch of Sikhs that wanted to basically separate from India. That's the overall gist of it. And it's because Sikhs are actually considered a separate religion from the majority Hindus. So even though Sikhs are a dharmic religion in much the same way that like they borrow a lot of their principles from Hindu like religion, it is actually quite separate from they borrow a lot of ideas from Islam. There are some tenets that are totally different. There are some tenets that are totally different between Hinduism and Sikhism, such as like Sikhism outright, saying no caste whatsoever. But the overall idea is that these Sikhs wanted to separate from the Indian government because they weren't being given enough autonomy. And so some people within this movement basically turned to militancy. And this ultimately culminated in a head called Operation Blue Star, which is where the Indian government actually raided the Harmandir Sahib, which is the holiest like site in Sikhism. It's the Golden Temple that you've heard of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is the leader at the time, I forget his name already, but the leader of the Khalistan movement at the time was being housed there, and a lot of his followers were trying to protect him from the Indian from the Indian government, which at this point was headed by Indira Gandhi, the head of the Congress Party. So that ultimately ended up in a head, and so ever since that, there have been like back and forth, clashes. There's been a massive tension between a lot of the Sikhs in Canada, the UK, and a lot of the Commonwealth. Bhindranwale, thank you, Bhindranwale. So Bhindranwale was the original Khalistani separatist that wanted a separate Sikh state, and he wanted basically not just Punjab, but like the Punjab region controlled by India. So that included Haryana as well as Himachal Pradesh. to be completely separated from India, because he wanted to create his own, basically sort of Sikh state, right? He wanted to do that. And so what ended up happening was this all, like I said, it ended up in a head in Indian Punjab. Operation Searchlight, sorry, not Searchlight, Operation Blue Star happens. The Indira Gandhi government sends in basically the army to storm the temple. Several, I believe, thousands of civilians die as a result of that. And as a result, what ends up happening is a lot of those people that were more sympathetic to the Khalistani movement flee to countries like what happened this year. This happened in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was some of those people left India, they fled India, and then they came to Canada, they came to the UK and other Commonwealth countries. And so what ended up ultimately happening was India had more or less strained relations with Canada ever since then, because the Indian state apparatus thinks like the Indian state apparatus currently views countries like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, which house these people that are more sympathetic to the Khalistan movement as like enemies of the state. And they view Canada as like housing enemies of the state of India. So that's why like
Turkey with Kurdish militants living in like European nations.
kind of. And it's not to like run defense for the Khalistan movement. They have done some really bad things in India. They have hurt a lot of civilians as well. So again, whenever I talk about like these sorts of like separatist movements, whether it be the LTTE, whether it be the Khalistan movement, is always about understanding that, yeah, we're not running defense for these separatist movements whatsoever, but we're understanding the material condition. Hold on, I'm gonna get to the Sikh genocide after that. Hold on, 1 second, chat. But basically, when you're talking about these militant groups, you have to understand, like, they obviously, I mean, you do, but like a lot of these separatist groups come from particular places, and Sikhs were not particularly treated well back then. They're particularly not treated well right now. It's the reason that the sentiment in Punjab has largely gone down in comparison to what it used to be was basically
they successfully squashed it. It seems like the Indian government, through violent measures, were able to successfully squash like the most militant elements of separatism in the country, and then the rest of them seeked refuge and safe harbor in Commonwealth countries, and by and large, it seems like there is not enough momentum at that point, inside of India.
It's not just the fact that they quashed the movement violently. I mean, it's like that also led to. So one chatter mentioned the fact that after the Operation Blue Star happened, Indira Gandhi's bodyguards, who were all Sikh, basically assassinated her. They shot her. And so that in turn created a backlash in 1984 in Delhi, where Hindus actually started attacking Sikhs. I don't remember the death count for that, but basically it was basically a mob lynching / pogrom against Sikhs. And so some of the people that fled India at that time to Canada were also victims of that Sikh genocide as well. So, or of that Sikh pogrom, anti-Sikh pogrom as well. So you're right. So basically what happened was India quashed this movement back in 1984. And Indira Gandhi is absolutely a ghoul. She also locked up several politicians that are now in power today. So India was actually quite authoritarian under Indira Gandhi. It was the Congress Party has done a lot of damage, not as much as like the BJP wants to do, but like they've done a shit ton of damage. Yes. So the only real Steven Seagal brought up the 1984 anti-Sikh riots. This is a direct result of Operation Blue Star, and this is a direct result of basically the assassination of Indira Gandhi. So yeah, roughly 3,000 Sikhs were killed in Delhi, and that all of that had a basically that all stems from
the Indian
Palestine
government says 3,350. The independent estimate is from 8,000 to 17,000 Sikhs were killed.
Yeah, as Nerd That Was Promised said, my small town has a Sikh community. My mom told me about how the Sikhs cut their hair and shaved their beards to hide their identity when Indira Gandhi was assassinated. The riots were horrible. Yes, there was an actual, like, I don't mean to, like, underplay what happened, but, like, what happened after Indira Gandhi was assassinated was that the Sikhs knew that the Indian government was absolutely going to come for them. They knew that they were going to be the victims of ethno-religious pogroms right after. So, like, they knew for a fact that's going to happen. So it's like a decades long issue that India's had with Sikh people. And actually, you covered the farmers' protests. So the word Khalistani is so rooted. The Air India bombing carried out by Canadian Khalistanis. I don't know too much about that, but I can say this. So Khalistani has, as a word, has actually been used to address any particular Sikh that opposes the current establishment. So you covered the farmers' protests, right? And so the farmers' protests that happened in Punjab, all across like northern India, it happened through Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, so on and so forth, right? So Khalistani, like the Modi government actually used the word Khalistani to actually address those people as terrorists, because it's a way of basically labeling people as like, oh, you're a Sikh, therefore you're anti-Indian, you're anti-government. So it's a way of just labeling. It's a way of labeling them as terrorists.
Yeah, they did that. They did that in the communist movement as well. Exactly. Like that was they
do that with so if you remotely help like Adivasis, like indigenous Indians, they'll call you a urban Naxal. They'll call you like a Naxalite, which again isn't to run defense for the Naxalites, because I have very mixed opinions of the Naxalites, as people who watch me know. But yeah, like they use like if you're a Muslim, they'll call you a jihadi. If you're a Sikh, they'll call you Khalistani. If you remotely help indigenous people, they will call you a Naxal. And then if you're a Dalit person, if you're a marginalized caste person, they'll just call you slurs.
Cool.
No, like I'm telling you, like I tried sharing like some Indian stories, some Indian news stories in Hascord, and people just like lost their minds. They're like, "Oh my god, India is like this insane." It's like you don't even know the half of it. Like
I only know, for the most part, anti-Muslim repression, which tracks with a lot of the things that you mentioned as far as like the purges against Sikh people, where it's always like just mass mobilization and like government sanctioned lynchings that are that where the people who get involved in it rarely ever get any kind of criminal punishment whatsoever. Like anytime things get out of hand.
So I mentioned this earlier, unless you're like a upper caste North Indian Brahmin, you're always going to be in the crosshairs of the government. So like a lot of hate crimes that happen in India that don't really get talked about outside of India because it's such a quagmire of a topic is like caste-based violence, like violence against marginalized castes. That's something that doesn't get enough. Like anti-Muslim hate crimes in India already don't get that much coverage in the West, but like anti-Dalit hate crimes, anti-Adivasi hate crimes, like marginalized caste hate crimes, like they get even less coverage because it is such a specific thing to like talk about. So it's like it's even like there are lots of like hate crimes. Like Manipur right now is currently on fire because the indigenous ethnic groups of Manipur in the northeast of India. I've been covering this for like about 3 months at this point, but basically like the indigenous groups of Manipur are being dispossessed, they're being dispossessed of their native lands by the local BJP run government. And it's also like ethno-nationalism that is at the heart of it. So it's Meitei ethno-nationalism against the Kuki-Chin Zos that are being dispossessed of their land, right? So the idea is, so basically like if you belong to a minority identity that the government can weaponize against you, they will do it. They absolutely will do it. Like I'm a South Indian. I'm from Tamil Nadu, right? There's a lot of shit that North Indians peddle about us because of a couple of reasons, like that the North Indian largely run government peddle about us One is because of the Dravidian nationalism that Tamil Nadu like espouses against like the caste system and all of this like Hindutva nonsense, right? The second thing is like uh Tamil Nadu is like more nice, I guess, to Muslims and Christians than a lot of the northern states, where like those hate crimes that you see that happen towards Muslims and Christians in the northern states don't happen as much in like Tamil Nadu. So basically, like, yeah, Indian government is fucked. India politics is super fucked. But yeah, I know we veered off of like the Khalistan movement for a little bit, but
Yeah.
yes.
So there's the Air India flight 182 that everyone wants you to bring up, but you said you don't have a lot of knowledge over that matter. It seems like they an Air India flight operating on the Montreal-London
flight that was basically, sorry to cut you off. It was a flight that was basically flying from Montreal to Bombay. It was flying from Canada to Bombay, which is why they're bringing it up as well, because it's a Canada and India thing. And basically the perpetrators of it were the perpetrators of it were Babar Khalsa, which is another, like, they're a sort of specific like militant group that is a Khalistani separatist group. So Khalistan is not like one particular ethnic, it's not one particular movement. There are multiple different organizations that call themselves like Khalistani, because for them Khalistan is but a goal. They're just interested in trying to establish that one state, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so they're like, I don't know why the reason why people bring this up, but like, is that the justification for the assassination? That's like why I don't understand why people keep
a lot of your
this up.
chatters are going to be like, a lot of your chatters, I said this, like, I think Nerd That Was Promised said like this earlier, but like a lot of your chatters are basically libs and or conservatives, but you just didn't notice it until now, because now you're covering, and now you have me on, because like I shit talk these guys all the time. Like I literally like,
I mean, I'm familiar with this. The same happens with Turkish people. Same happens with like Israeli people. Same happens with Americans as well. Every country, like I have a global audience, and people love watching me whenever I'm shitting on America, which is understandable. We're all united on that front, except for some liberal Americans who get very upset whenever I talk about foreign policy. If I talk about hogs in America and how fucking silly they are, everybody loves it. But the moment that like they are in the crosshairs as international hogs, which every country has, as I've talked about time and time again, all of a sudden they drop the pretense of like being a rugged socialist or a progressive of any sort, and immediately become hogs themselves.
Hold on, there's a chatter I have to. There's a chatter that I have to respond to. Hey, Hawk Zeno. Darnu pallu pudingi un sutula vechiruvenda punda mavane.
What just happened?
I just cursed at him. Don't worry about it.
Okay. But it seems is this one of the major justifications as to why Indians try to claim that like all of the Khalistani people in that movement was like, even if they're tangentially involved, or even if they're sick, they're like terrorists? Is this like the major act of violence that they point to beyond like the prime minister assassination?
Yeah, so they'll point to stuff like this. Like they'll point to stuff like this to justify like, oh yeah, what India did is correct in terms of like the assassination of the guy, or like they'll be like, what is it? They'll be like, what you're saying is absolutely correct. It's basically, this is one of the reasons. Again, when I'm talking about all of this, I'm not.
This guy keeps saying, what about the Hindu genocide that killed 150,000 Hindus?
Sangi, hey, yarani, hey.
What is he saying? He's saying that the Hindu genocide happened where 150,000 Hindus were genocided, and it was not investigated at all.
Is he talking about the fucking? I think I know what he's talking. Is he talking about Kashmir?
Yeah, I think he's talking about Kashmir. Yeah.
Okay, so
There's
that's
no
a different
I don't
can
know
of
where
worms that I
else.
don't want to open now because I
I
don't
don't
think
know what.
any.
Sorry,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so I want to know what he's saying. I want to know what he's fucking talking about. I suspect he's talking about. I suspect he's talking about the exodus of Kashmir Hindus, maybe.
Yes, he's talking about the he's talking about the Kashmir Hindu exodus. Okay, so there's a level of truth into the fact that yes, there were Kashmiri Hindus that lived in Kashmir, that were basically forcibly removed, partially by the Indian government in a sense for again, I'm not too much knowledgeable on this, but yes, they were forcibly removed from Kashmir, and a lot of the stuff that the Hindu minority in Kashmir went through was atrocious. Like there were, uh, Islamist outfits that did like specifically target the Kashmiri Pandit minority. But the problem is that that thing is now weaponized by the current administration for all the atrocious shit that the Indian army does against the Muslims in Kashmir. So,
Yeah.
like, for example, like the Indian army will like literally murk a random ass like they'll literally murk a random ass like dad. And they'll use like human shields as well. So they'll use human
They do
shields.
Israel style propaganda
Oh yeah.
over their actions. It seems like, I mean, Indian Twitter, at least as far as I've seen it, is like very much aligned with like far right Israeli nationalists.
Oh yeah. They will suck up to Israeli like far right nationalists and shit. Like they'll suck up to far right Israeli Zionists. The silly thing is that the Israeli Zionists and then like turn up being like they end up being racist towards the Indians.
Yeah, because the Indians are brown.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I've seen this as well. It's pretty funny.
yeah. But there is like actually so I did promise so I did mention I do want to mention one thing before like I don't know how long you want to have me on here, but there is a sort of thing that I did want to talk about. And maybe you can have me on for like a different discussion on this like later. It's not necessarily tangentially related to India. Yes. Show me Yomi. Khalistani reminds me of the Tamil Tigers. Great fucking transition. Absolutely transition. Okay. So in basically I talk about this all the time on my channel because this actually gets zero coverage from anyone. You may have heard about this, but this is a sort of ongoing ethnic cleansing that is not, I mean, ethnic cleansing genocide that's been happening to the Tamils in Sri Lanka for a very long time. And so to set up the context, there are two, it's not India, it's just slightly off of India. It's a different country, chat. But there are Tamils that live in India, and then there are also Tamils in Sri Lanka. And basically, the long story short is that for the past 80 some odd years, the Sinhalese nationalist government has been doing massive pogroms against the Tamils for a very long time. And there's actually like there's a movie called, I mean, yeah, you'd have to like, this is way too much to get into, but like they're like actually went on FD show and talked about this a little bit. I went on FD's like podcast because he was actually supposed to be on this stream where I had on like a former UN human rights counselor on my show to talk about like Willy Vaikal, which was in May 18th, where basically people remember like the massacres that the Sri Lankan government did to the Tamils of the north. But I just wanted to mention that because I figured like um the Sri Lanka Communist Party is leading the polls. Uh-oh. Don't get me started on them. But yeah, that's another thing I just wanted to mention a little bit. If you ever want to have me on to like just talk about like what's going on in Sri Lanka. Nothing, this guy is full of shit. Nothing of the sort is happening in Sri Lanka. I found the Sinhalese nationalists. Suck my dick. Suck my dick, chatter. Suck my fucking dick. Make sure to fucking schedule another appointment with your mom.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So you want to talk about the what's going on in Sri Lanka as well at a separate point?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We can do that. But so what is your overall, let's summarize it before I move on to some other stuff. What's your overall perspective on? It seems like from where I'm standing, it seems like the Khalistani separatist movement is not as popular.
It's not.
It might get outsized coverage in the Western world due to a lot of people who are purged or sought refuge in Commonwealth nations as a consequence of the aftermath of Operation Blue Point and purges against Sikh people in India. So there is definitely, it seems like there's more. I say Blue Point, Blue Star. Sorry, Blue Point is the video game developer.
Operation Blue Star, yeah.
Yeah. So there is more momentum, or at least like more commentary revolving around it. And as far as this goes, it seems like it was maybe created with a genuine purpose originally, but hasn't necessarily maintained momentum either due to internal pressure and successful purges, or due to, I don't know, some sort of lack of momentum. And now the Indian government, it seems, is utilizing this assassination, just like many other minority purges that they either turn turn a blind eye to as another political pawn for themselves in order to galvanize BJP's position and embolden nationalist forces, Hindu nationalist forces. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, so I think, so as far as what I think is going to come of this, I don't think anything major is going to come of this. I think ultimately if I don't think anything serious, I think the thing is, like, India is, again, too much of a wild card for anyone to, like, do anything about it. And again, like, there are Western interests in India right now. For example, Apple is, like, trying to open new factories in India. That's why a lot, like, across India, you have a lot of, like, anti-labor laws that are being passed. Like, for example, recently in my home state, they tried to pass a law basically lengthening work hours to 12 hours. But it got slapped down by it was basically pressured by the Communist Party of my state, VCK, the Dalit Panthers, and it was also resisted by the Congress Party. So there are, like, American initiatives that would eventually, like, if they tried to do anything about this, that would eventually stifle it. I think the Indian government is absolutely going to try, this is an issue that both, like, Congress supporters and BJP supporters can rally behind, because Congress supporters are absolutely not, like, fans of the Khalistani movement either. And
yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, it's a perfect enemy, because it's a perfect action against the enemy that unites all forces, even if they themselves are in opposition to the BJP. Right? Isn't that what it is? It's
the perfect way of doing it. I don't know whether the BJP. I think the BJP has long since realized that their stability and power is, like, not guaranteed, because, like, right now, I think the Congress has done, like, recently Congress has just taken back Karnataka, which was the South Indian state, which was their entry point into the South, right? So with Congress taking back Karnataka, they're completely locked out of the South for the time being, right? So the BJP is going to grasp as many straws as possible. They're going to grasp at many straws to, like, keep their position in power. And I think this is one of those rallying points. Whether that will be entirely effective or not is totally up in the air right now. I don't think this is going I don't think that they're going to necessarily nab any Congress voters from here with this particular issue. I think in 2024, what's going to happen is, because this new coalition is, like, there's a new India coalition that's fighting the BJP. It's called India, INDIA. That's the name of the coalition. I think ultimately, this is going to fizzle out. Over time, I think people are going to forget this in, like, the next, like, 2 weeks or so, probably. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a massive I don't think it's going to be I think it's ultimately going to evolve to be a nothing burger, partially because like I don't think anyone involved in Indian interests is going to want to jeopardize their current interest in India right now. That's generally like my take on this.
I do like this guy said your assumption is India was responsible for the assassination of the dude, which is highly unlikely. When like people in positions in the Indian government have been like, yeah, we killed him and it was awesome and we should do more of it. Actually, I thought that was like well established. Like it's not like is India even saying that they didn't do it?
I think India is. I mean, India's basically swatting down the accusations right now. Like they're trying to do damage control.
Oh, they're denying it?
Yeah, some of them are denying it. Absolutely. They're saying like the last time I checked, there's a Wire article that I sent. But they basically said they're basically currently saying that the establishment is denying the attack at the moment.
Oh, okay. The Canadian intelligence warned Nijar before the assassination, pretty much confirmed.
Exactly. Yeah. It is like the government actually denied it. Like the Indian government is like denying it as much as possible right now. Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, Fiery Ice, absolutely based person. Okay, I hate saying the word based. I don't know why that word.
Yeah, it was BJP supporters.
I hate it so much. It like
I agree. It's
motherfuckers say based so much. They got me saying it. I fucking hate it. But yeah, Fiery Ice is absolutely, he's an awesome chatter. He's absolutely right. This is one of those things that like
the BJP supporters are saying we didn't do it, but if we did, it was epic.
Yes, literally, it's one of those. It's like it's one of those things that the BJP would literally say, like BJP supporters would literally say.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at ArunAnnow twitch.tv/ArunAnnow, ArunAnnow. Yo, thanks for having me on. Big fan of yours. Absolutely. We got to do it more times.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Thanks.
And on that note, we're going to continue on with our coverage. Everyone needs to calm the fuck down. Okay. I didn't know that there was a Indian HasanAbi out there, and now I know. That was awesome. I wonder if he also runs 3-minute ad breaks at the top of the hour.